It's Tarke here, and today we've got another Patreon build review, and this is a build review I'm very excited to do because it shows the cluster jewel trap issue. So this is a Toxic Rain trickster, should be pretty familiar since I played a whole bunch of Caustic Arrow / Toxic Rain at the start of the league, and this is a modified version of my tree, and they've kind of been screwed over a bit by cluster jewels, but anyway, we'll get into it. Hey, thanks for your awesome content. I would like a build review for my Toxic Rain Trickster. Damage is great, but I feel very swishy. I was planning to drop to the top 8 points of the tree once I get a nice medium cluster jewels, a large jewel. I think I'm maybe running a Grant of Iron Skin for Molten Shell as I have open flask slots and all 3 sockets. Would require a bit more strength from gear / tree. So, what am I talking about in particular? So, from memory, I'll just quickly do what my tree looked like. My tree from memory for League Start looks something kind of like this. I came on the bottom, did that. Something sort of like that. Now you can see in contrast, it's basically the same build, right? And you're like, oh, but you didn't really change much. Well, there's like 1,000 life difference. And 1,000 life makes a really, really big difference. And there's also, it's not including the jewels, so it's even more than that. So on and so forth. Now, sure, you'll be seeing all the damage from the cluster jewels, but I didn't actually fill in the ascendancy stuff. Oopsie. So you can see it's a difference of like 3,000-4,000, and if the damage seems so low, the way that Toxic Rain works, also I'm assuming this isn't set up correctly with withers and all this other stuff. Well, the way that Toxic Rain works is it's like 6 pods, 5 pods, I can't remember, and they all stack, and then you just like overlap everything and all this other shit. Toxic Rain is incredibly powerful with cluster jewels, but you kind of need to plan around it. So, like, you can't for me anyway, I couldn't come up with a trickster tree that went to Scion Life that I liked with cluster jewels. I had a CI tree that I liked, where you just kind of go along this way, and then you have all your points, you go crazy there. I've planned out a couple of, like, ranger-based trees that I really like, which pick up life this way, don't go this way at all. I'm sure there's probably some people on PvP who have some trees, which we'll look at in a little bit. But cluster jewels are very, very powerful if you're making the points work for you. So let's look at what, you know, they had going on here. So they're spending 4 points to travel to get to the cluster jewel, and then they're getting damage. Skill effect duration is incredibly powerful for Toxic Rain. One of the best stats, so great. Damage. As you kill explode, helps the clear a little bit, but doesn't really help you directly. It's like an indirect boost. Damage. And then for 2 points, you're getting the stun. So it's like, this is a lot of damage, right? But then that's it. And then they're getting elusive for 3 points. Elusive's very powerful, but it's not like, you know, it just isn't really worth it, right? It's just like they're gimping themselves by fitting it in. So this would be a setup where you could drop this completely, kind of go for like a more traditional tree, and then just stack up some nice jewels, and then you'll have the same damage that you had from, you know, doing that. If you want to do the cluster jewel setup, the cluster jewels you would like to run, it's mostly for the mediums. It's not really, you don't really do it for the larges. You're mostly doing it for the mediums with this build. Because the mediums where's all the real powers at. And, for example, on Carve's build, he actually dropped Atrophy on his Essence Rank character, because he was getting more juice from clusters than he was getting from Atrophy. which, like, that's how good they are. That on a build, you would drop atrophy to get it. And I think that's really... If you want to do this, then you need to, like, really think about, okay, how am I going to do this? You're skipping off the starts of your trees, like, you're doing stuff like that. Like, you need to trim everything to be as point efficient as possible. Like, you need to just, like, cut everything way, way back. But anyway, let's get into, like, why mediums are so good for this build. So, it's all about stacking that duration. So, you can get Wicked Pal, Skill Effect Duration. This is a bit where Tarke reminds himself what every node does, which is always very fun. Brush for Death is great, but you already have the Life on Kill, ES on Kill, so it's not that great. Circling Oblivion gives Skill Effect Duration. Circling Oblivion is very, very good. Eldritch Inspiration, you don't need the mana. Eternal Suffering, this is it. Yeah, so Eternal Suffering, Wicked Pal. So with one medium jewel, just this, you're getting 50% skill effect duration. Compare that to that, which is 45. So if you're going to do it, it's kind of like you drop Scion's start, and then you stack a bunch of the mediums, and that's how you're getting the skill effect duration, because then you don't need this, right? And that's why I really like to on my CI tree, and so on and so forth. So, that's just some medium jewel stuff. I'm curious to look over the gear, and then I actually want to look into how other people have been doing these trees, because this is something I started at the very start of the league, and I haven't really looked back at it since then. And a big issue I had was trying to work out how I was going to fit the jewels in with my old tree, because obviously the tree just doesn't work anymore. You need to like just rethink it completely. Let's just look into the links and the gear and everything before we get to that point. So, Toxic Rain, Vicious Proj, Efficacy, Damage from Full Life, and Mirage Reduction, Blade Manipulation. These links are fine. But low-level gems, you need to push your gems up. Flesh and Stone, Malevolence, Clarity, fine. Vol Grace, Increased Duration, Steel Skin, Dash Second. Okay, so there's a lot of open gems then. Right. Only a +2 bow. You really want a +3 bow with attack speed. Attack speed is super important for Toxic Rain. You can use fossils to craft it. You can alt roll it. You can do alt roll and then multi-mod crafts. There's loads of different ways of doing it. Thanks to the host, Ziggy. We're just recording some Patreon build reviews, so no chat interaction, just recording vids, but appreciate it, dude. Quiver is terrible. Yes, it's giving you some damage over time multiplier, but it's giving you, like, no life. Blast, okay. Obviously the helm, it's an okay helm, but it doesn't give you the enchant you want. Rusted Sword, perfect starter chest for this build. It's what I use, it's really good. Gloves are fine. You really would want attack speed on gloves. If you get Hunter gloves, you can get the Chaos Multi there. Itziri Stepper, perfectly fine starter boots. Ami doesn't even have a life on it, so terrible Ami. Decent ring. Coral ring with good life roll, good resist, has the craft. And another decent ring, actually. Good life. Some all res. Shame about the cold res being so low. But it's alright, it's alright. And then the leather belt is kind of trash. Guessing you don't play with 4 flasks. I'm guessing you just swapped out a flask or something. Definitely run a Jade Flask. You don't need the Stibnite because you're running Flesh and Stone, but you can just run the Stibnite because it still gives you increased evasion, and the more evasion you have, the better your ES recovery is. Quartz I definitely 100% run on every build this league. And then the cluster jewels you already spoke about, that's fine. And that's that. So, let's go on to your Pee-wee Ninja. And let's see how people are actually reading these builds these days with cluster jewels in mind. I am very, very curious about this one. So, we'll look mostly at just hardcore builds, because if you look at the softcore builds, it's kind of like everyone's got 4k life. Let's go. The trees are kind of a bit all over the place. So, this routing became popular recently. Coming along this way, there's a guy called Hasonic who routes that way on his tree instead of coming through this way. Comes along the top to get the ES instead of getting the evasion. personal preference, really. Depends which way you're kind of routing it. But let's have a look at, like, the top 10 profiles. And have all... Ooh, I like the look of this Scion. I'm always interested when I see a Scion every now and again. Obviously, you're also going to have some of the trees getting a bit messed up, because we will see some Toxic Rain miners sneaking in. And I also want to look at the Necro, because you can do some pretty cool things with Azaneth's Chant. So, pretty standard. Going this way, shoving Costjol in there, and it's a medium with the wrong sockets, and sucking brush with death, but fair. No skill effect duration stacking, but it's mostly a course to carry build, just using Toxic Terrain for support, so that's fine. Don't know why the decay's on there. That's weird. Don't like that. But otherwise, I'm into it. Don't like the decay on there, though. That's a bit weird. Maybe I'm missing a trick, but that seems kind of suboptimal. Large into a medium into a small. Rooting that way. It seems a real shame not to be doing the double mediums. Seems a real shame. I guess if you don't need the damage, you don't need the damage, but... Okay, so this is for Sonic's tree. This is like literally the tree he did in a video last league. So he's shoved the Thread of Hope there to get the phase acro. Yeah, real nice. Watcher's Eye coming across that way. Doesn't take any skill effect duration at all. Mostly using Course to Gareth for clear, just tuck turn for a little bit of additional support. Really like this setup. Really like this setup. I'd be tempted to just go with something. I wouldn't use this exact tree. I think I prefer coming along this way. I don't really like this routing. I prefer just cutting across that way, grabbing Profane Chemistry and everything. But I'd be very tempted just to do a Colossal, sorry, a Thread of Hope setup there and yoinking those up than the Colossal. Scion, this one's interesting to me. So if you put a very large Thread of Hope here, you get to yoink both of those and Iron Reflexes, which is super strong. He's Colossal it up there, and he's gone for large with Wicked Pull, Unholy Grace, Touch of Cruelty, medium, Mender's Wellspring, Peak Vigor. If you're going to run a Flask one, that's the best setup to use. And then this one, Eternal Suffering, Wicked Power, so that's the best setup there. That's really good. And then Flexible Sentry is interesting. Huh. Flexible Sentry. Which one's that? Flexible Sentry. Was that block one, right? Block spell damage. So if we found the new secret strat. Which one's that? Avoid ailments. Oh, okay. I generally prefer going for the dodge one, because the dodge one gives 30% rather than 25%. But yeah, you can run that instead of the other one. And he's gone rear guard. Not entirely sure why. Necro. Okay. Bone Offering. This seems cool. Let's look at this. Not entirely sold on that. But it seems interesting. I like that. That's kind of cute. And then Pathfinder is just the best one by far. Then from Necro, getting the Offerings effect to you. You're getting a little bit of attack and cast seed from auras, and then you're getting 30% AoE if you consumed a corpse recently. Use Azanath's chant to consume the corpses. And he's running Desecrate Bone Offering, Molten Shell, Despair. So he's got automated Molten Shell, automated Despair. See, that's kind of risky, because won't his Molten Shell then just override his Vol Molten Shell? Seems a bit... Like, I like the automated cursing, the automated offerings. I don't know about putting the Molten Shell there. Maybe swap that around with, like, Blood Rage or something. I don't know. I think I'd rather manually press that. Two points that way. You could spend 3 points that way. If you spend 3 points that way, then you gain access to a jewel. I think I would rather go... I think I'd rather do that way, get a jewel, than come up the top. I'm not 100% on his tree. I think the tree could be improved slightly. But conceptually, I love it. Also, just as this is a real bugbear, the amount of people I see who skip this node... They changed it to be just 20% damage, like, over a year ago. It used to be 20% elemental damage. I think a lot of people didn't realize they made the change. But it's 20% damage, 20% crit, and it gives stats for 1 point. Take it. So many people don't take it for 1 point. I think they just, like, never saw they updated it or something. But this is an interesting setup. I was thinking about doing just straight up a Necro Toxic Rain build. Because the reason for going just straight up a Necro is you get Corpse Pact, which is really good with Azanath's chant. Like, really, really good with Azanath's chant. So it gives you increased attack and cast speed for each corpse you've consumed recently. You're always consuming corpses because you're always attacking. Your Azanath's chant is always proccing. So your attack speed gets absolutely ridiculous. And then the cast speed is also useful because that scales your Wither Totem. So your Wither Totems are going to get like instant full stacks of Wither on the target. And then you also get skill effect duration from Mistress of Sacrifice. So if I was playing this build, doing the whole block meme, I would go Necro, not Scion, and I would go Corpse Pact, Mistress of Sacrifice, and then if you needed the auras, Commander of Darkness for the res and the damage, a little bit of extra attack speed, or Essence Glutton, because if you go Essence Glutton, that solves out any mana issues you might have. You'd probably do Essence Glutton early until you got minus mana cost rings, and then you'd swap into Commander of Darkness. Your tree would be a little bit awkward, and I realize I've just started reviewing a different build. So let me get back into reviewing your build, sorry. I'm very good at, very good at distracting myself. Where did I save it? It was base, there we go. But I am mostly interested just in seeing a couple more trees and how they're rooted. I really like the Thread of Hope here. That's what I originally planned on doing with my build. Cluster there's pretty interesting. Large, the medium, the small. What's that cluster give again? That's, right, because it's, yeah, if you're going mines, then that's a no-brainer. I was like, why are they doing that? That could also be one thing to look into, is going mines instead of going self-cast. The advantage of doing mines over self-cast is then you don't need to worry about attack speed at all. This tree looks pretty good. Forsaking Witch Start to just go all in on the clusters down here. Cyclopean Coil to get near total ailment immunity. Don't like the Toxic Rain. I do kind of like this tree though. Another Azanath's chant setup. And he's Azanathing Essence Drain Control Structure Affliction Contagion. Pretty cute. Gives just a little bit of extra clear. Toxic Rain clear isn't the best compared to Caustic Arrow, but with this you'll have actually pretty decent clear. I think messing around with Azanath's chant would definitely be worth doing. And he's getting large, medium, small, and then he's putting a jaw in the last one because he's only level 94. Yeah, I think I like a tree kind of like this the most. I think if I was to remake it, with Cluster Jewels in mind, I'm going to come up with 2 trees with cluster jewels in mind for trickster. I don't think you can afford to take the shadow start. I think you have to just cut it in like every version. You need to cut everything down basically to just the bare minimum. I would really want to Thread of Hope there. I don't think I'd want to take the Acro Phase Acro. You'll always take Escape Artist. It's too good. I'm just going to try something. This is going to look a bit wonky, but just like bear with me. This is another tree. I started messing around with trees that came along this outside most recently when I was planning out for Ignite builds. I started doing this routing, coming along the outside. The advantage of coming along the outside is you get access to a jewel. You get ES Energy Shield, which is very strong. Also, if you route that way, it looks prettier, and then you get that way. These nodes are all great, but like you kind of want to just have the bare minimum of everything. And then if you're gonna keep the Cluster Jewel in here, great. Otherwise, Thread of Hope there. Do you Phase Acro, Silent Steps, drop those 3 points? Maybe. It's always the question is, do you go to Scion Start or not? How much life can I get not going to Scion Start? Let's have a look, see. And you going all the way across? You could still Thread of Hope there. $67, 69, 78. That would maybe work. That would maybe work as a setup. Maybe. Might be a bit iffy. And this is dependent on having the Thread of Hope. And I would only go for this routing for the Thread of Hope's sake. Drop all of those points. Do that. Do that. So then it'd be a level 77 tree with 169 life, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 jewels for life. It's pretty decent. And then you can get life on your clusters. So it's not too bad. So then, assuming that you had that set up correctly, I'm just trying to work out how much life you'd actually have with this setup. I think for something like softcore, I think it'd be fine. For hardcore, you'd probably have to go for a more traditional tree. This might be a bit like DPS warrior. You go life. But like, just to say this quickly, and this is the thing that I love so much about Cluster Jewels, there's so much variety in how you do the tree now. Like, the fact that there are so many different ways of doing the tree. Before, when people used to, like, talk about builds or, like, send me builds or whatever, it would be like, oh, you went the wrong way. There's now, it's very hard to say that someone just straight up went the wrong way when they make a build. It's nearly always a case of, like, I can see why you did that, maybe if we went a different way. Which, it sounds like the same thing, but it's very different. I really like that there's now no true wrong answer. And the fact there's no true wrong answer, I think is just really cool. And, which is the attack speed one? Not touch of cruelty. Unwavering evil is the stun one. The attack speed one is Unholy Grace. Unholy Grace, yes. I would go in there. Evil, Lucky Pal, boom, boom. That's very much worth the 2 points, but you take that last, because obviously arrows are pushing the levels pretty high with the tree kind of looking like this. And then you do your mediums. Chaos multi. I'll do like one more tree afterwards. I'm just curious to see how this one looks. And then it's Eternal Suffering and Wicked Power. Boom. And then you either use 2 like this, or you fit in 1 medium, which is a flask one. And for the flask one, you go for always peak vigor, because you're doing it because you want the life. And then either fasting for bossing, or you go for Mender's Wellspring for the remove bleeding. So it saves you a mod on your setup. Also, if you want something more defensive, if you're like, I don't need skill effect duration that much, I want a more defensive setup, you could also do a Chaos multi-jewel with, instead of going for Wicked Power as the second, you instead go for Flow of Life, which gives you some life. So it's life damage every time, and a little bit of extra regen. The regen's also good because the regen gets scaled by Trickster. So if you want to go a bit tankier with it, this is a solid way of doing it, but the skill effect duration is very, very strong. And if you can't get hold of Wicked Power, you can also settle the Circling Oblivion. It's just worse than going for Wicked Power, but it's like okay if you hit that. But yeah, if you want to go a little bit more defensively, you could go for a setup which looks like that. The Jewel Socket. And then for your mediums, for your smalls, you've got quite a few options based on what you want. You can go for Surging Vitalities, you can go for Fertiles, you can go for Avoid Ailments to get 100% ailment immunity. You can also go for Cyclopean Coil and run Fetal Jewels, so you just get more life up. So if you're like, my life is really low, I just need more life, then go that way. And why isn't it letting me anoint the extra medium? Ah, because I'm not putting it in the right slot, that's why. Where was the defensive one? I left one socket open, that's that right now. And then also, if you're really starved on points, or you just wanted more damage, you could just put in, if you had like good 3-stat jewels, which were like Chaos Overtime Multiplier, attacks you with bows, % life, you could also just slot those in there instead of going for small life jewels completely, which could be an option. Not necessarily the option, but it's a option. But yeah, I would say go for the dodge. I've just been telling everyone to go for the dodge ones with Elegant Form. But if you don't want to run those, you can just run life ones with Fatal or Surging Vitality. You can also go Peak Vigor if you're doing stuff with Flasks, which can be kind of interesting. And if you're going Divine Flesh setups, then obviously go for the max Chaos Res nodes. And then you can shove like Org Res or Chaos Res, whatever on that last node there. But yeah, so this is obviously now going to be like a 95, 96 tree. What's this? 96. But yeah, so this might look like, okay, so you've only got the same damage, right? And obviously you've added an extra 16 points in. But you've then, on this tree, you've got the utility of the phase acrobatics, you've got all the skill effect duration, which scales it much, much further. You've gained like nearly 2k life. You go crazy on life regen. If you don't want to go this way, you could also just go for a super traditional tree where you just go completely left to right. So like, go for a tree kind of like this. This is generally why I kind of prefer, I think I might prefer going just like Raider or Pathfinder for Toxic Rain now, because their starting nodes are life, so you don't feel bad about taking, like, you can, if you take the full Ranger start, you don't need to root out the back. Like, Shadow Start is good damage, but it's just damage, and you can get better damage on the cluster jewels, right? You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna root out of these. I'm not gonna take these life nodes to get other life nodes. You know what I mean? Just it doesn't work like that. It's really awkward having to like do this like fucking dance around nodes, and obviously if you don't care about like life, then just don't skip life nodes. Like, sorry, don't skip the good damage. Like, you'd probably still take entropy for 2 points, for example. Oh yeah, you probably wouldn't skip entry, but yeah. Shove that in there. Shove that in there. Do that, do that. You'd probably take Master Fletcher. Master Fletcher's really good for Talk Drain because there's a lot of attack speed. And this will look very similar to the other tree because it is very similar to the other tree. This is also why, like, if you did this on a ranger, it'd be really good because then you don't need to come into this shit at all. And then level 68. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. It's gonna look near identical, but it gets these nodes here. Rather than coming down that way. So yeah, I don't know. I would kind of go for setups that kind of look like that, and obviously shove the big cluster jewel setup in that way. Or don't even shove the cluster jewel setup there. Shove the Thread of Hope in there. Just do that, and that. And then at a level 92 build, you've gained, because the tree you reduced something at like 4.8k. You've gained like 1,000. You've got like the same damage. Gain acro, phase acro. Or go for just like my league starter, which has like as much damage as all the setups. Has the ES, has like, if you're gonna play hybrid, just go for it. I always think that you just skip it unless you're going CI and coming up the top on Trickster. Because it's just like the hybrid, like the default tree just has everything. I don't know. Cluster jewels are really, really interesting. They're very, very strong. Like, very strong. But they're also super bait. Like, you need to add them into your build while not actively making your build worse. And it seems that for certain, like, they're nearly always a no-brainer included in every single build. But I do genuinely think there are a couple of builds out there, and I think this might be one of them, unless you go CI, where you just don't add it. I think not adding it is a perfectly valid choice. But anyway. I'm Tarke. I hope you found that rant mildly interesting. Definitely recommend going on PV Ninja, seeing how other people do it. Look at stuff like heat maps. You'll generally see that even though there are a lot of different ways of doing it, the general consensus is to do some kind of fuckery with Scion Start. Or if you're not going to go to Scion Start, you just go for a super traditional tree, something kind of like this. This looks pretty good. He's using the Gull, so this guy knows what he's talking about. If you're using the Gull, it's a good build. Much easier doing these trees on softcore, because on softcore, like, have 6k-ish life, acro, phase acro, and you're done. And then you can just go all in on damage. So like, this tree for me looks pretty spot on. I do think I might maybe start recommending people do 1, 2, skip these, do that, do that. I think I might prefer this setup now. Also, that looks neater. Once you've got a good jewel, you give up a tiny bit of damage, tiny bit of prod speed, tiny bit of area. But this, though, doesn't really give you anything. Like, it gives you 20 int, which I guess is nice. But you already have more than enough int. And getting the extra jewel socket's really strong. Getting the extra evasion is super, super strong. Getting the extra ES is super, super strong. So I think, yeah, if you just want to copy my build from the get-go, go for a tree kind of like that. I think is what I'd recommend these days. Otherwise, just come down this way, skip this completely, skip that completely. Go acro, phase acro, shove a big cluster jewel setup in, and just kind of mess about, have fun. A lot of this also depends on how much currency and gear you have available to you at the time. But anyway, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.